Right. Welcome all. So this is the Business of Allied Health podcast supported by CliniScribe. So we have a very special guest today, the immediate past president of the APA, the Australian Physio Association. He also was, interestingly, the chair, or started off the chair of the PBA, or the private practice or business interest group of the APA. So he's got a very wide-ranging perspective on both ends, including where digital health and AI is going as well. And he's run his own practice and actually successfully sold it last year and continues to practice as a clinician. What's the clinic called again, Scott?
It's called Leap Health Coastal Physiotherapy now.
Yep, in Tassie. And he's
Yes.
also involved with Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander type of work at the APA previously. So it's just fantastic to have him. Lovely to have you here.
No, thanks very much for having me, Barry.
Yeah, so could you, in a very quick nutshell, talk about your story about how you started as a physio really early on and how you ended up in private practice?
Yeah, it was really interesting because I had no idea what physiotherapy was until I hurt my knee playing sport, of course, and had to have a knee arthroscopy and had to have some physio pre and post op. So I thought, oh, this looks like a very good career, and started to investigate it. But then as I went down the track, I was from the western suburbs of Sydney, an Aboriginal man, and also, from an area of low socioeconomic. So my teachers kept on saying, especially one, you need to find another career. You're not going to succeed in physiotherapy. You're not smart enough. You come from out west, and it's time you look elsewhere. So me being me, I said, well, I'm going to show you. Did the degree, failed a couple of subjects along the way and thought maybe he was right, but stuck at it and became a physiotherapist because of that initial injury to myself, and then started down the path of physio. And when I graduated, there was no or very minimal jobs in New South Wales at the time through allocation. So I came to Tassie and have stayed here, started in the public system for about 3.5 years, doing the rotational, went through the senior role of inpatients, and then decided to look externally and went into private practice then.
Oh, wow. So that sounds like a bit of a hustle early.
It was. That was like, it was a whirlwind early on,
Well,
and didn't know what to expect. Didn't know what, I thought maybe the teacher was right and maybe I need to find something, but I just thought, no, stick at it, and had some really good mentors through the way, and my family was very supportive as well. So I think I was very, very lucky.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And it's great insight for those who are struggling even to get into our profession, and also foreign physios that try to come over here and often fail.
Yeah,
Quite a bit.
and I think from Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders as well. Like, we definitely have a barrier there, and I hope that it gives some other prospective physiotherapists the impetus to go forward and have a go and have a crack at it.
Love it. So what transitioned you from the hospital setting to private practice?
I think I was really, really lucky. In a small area of Burnie on the northwest coast of Tasmania, you kind of know everyone in the medical field. So I was working on, the orthopedic and medical and ICU and all the inpatient services. So I actually knew all the consultants, and then, had a fortunate meeting with a local private practitioner, and he said, why don't you come out? And I thought, I'm in a public safe spot. I don't know whether I would. But when I met the doctors at the local medical centre, they had this real vision, a vision that we see so much now. And if you read the In Practice 2025 report, it's exactly what they wanted to do 30 years ago. And that set up a multidisciplinary clinic with physiopodiatry, audiology, psychology, podiatry, dietetics, even diabetic educators, GPs, a psychiatrist would come in. So we had this all under one roof, and I thought, wow, this is future focus. This is something that I could really see myself developing into, and left the public system, went into private practice then, only as an employee as well.
That's really interesting. It shows you something about yourself. It's sort of forward thinking and thinking, okay, so what does the future hold here?
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And that's what really got my brain and got my interest. I went, wow, this is something that I can see, that I could see the vision that the GPs had. And they weren't GPs that were just there for the money. You could see that it was really there for the area, and especially in a rural area. If you don't do the right thing, you're not going to survive. Word of mouth is such a significant part of practice here in the northwest coast of Tassie.
Excellent. And did you buy into the practice or did you start your own or what
No, I
did you
bought
do?
into the practice, and when
Yeah.
I started, the practice was only very small, and again, I had the vision and started to assist the current owner, or the owner then, to start to develop. And he goes, "I think it's time that you actually came in and became part of this and grow with it." And that's what happened. We virtually started another clinic under Coastal Physio's pretty much name, and developed that, and went further and further along, and opened different clinics, started to employ more and more people, different professions like exercise physiologists and things like that. Again, looking ahead and thinking, okay, if we can't get physiotherapists into this rural area, what else can we do to actually plug that market? And that's what we started to think ahead and develop those types of things.
So just a question there. What are physios attracted to get into that rural area from the city, for example, where we've got everything here?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, but one that I always say that I think it's that community feel. I look around now, and I can walk down the street, and it takes me 10 minutes to walk down the street because you're always talking to people. So it's always that community feel. It's like a team, and I think that's what I've always been, a sports person, and I'm always a team player. So it hit my mark. I think where I was part of the team, I was part of the community. It was like my mob. It was kind of a background of my Aboriginal heritage as well, where you're part of a mob, and when you become part of that mob, you are connected to the land, you're connected to the people, you're connected to the area. So I think in rural areas, I think that's what's the big attraction, and it's got the off-sites of it as well, where you play sport with people, you socialize with people, and it can be really, really heartening to see your intervention, how it actually affects the whole community, not just one person.
Love it. And so you're sporting. Sounds like sports were a big part of your early childhood and as you grew up.
I played
Uh,
every sport.
every sport, yeah. Like the jock,
Yeah,
were you the jock of the school? Or
yeah, that's it. I was
is
I
that
was the
you?
sport captain, the school captain,
A
like in
school
every
captain.
school captain.
One of
Like I
those
was
ones.
in every sport that you can actually think of. Like the teacher was just coming, "Oh, we need to plug this hole in this sport." And I said, "Yeah, I'll give it a crack. I haven't played, but
I love it.
yeah,
So you're sort of like give it a go type of person, and I guess you
definitely,
developed your leadership skills and social skills from that.
yeah,
And I think
definitely,
that's really interesting that you talk about that because it sort of comes through now, even down at this stage of your career, where all those early kind of things just came together,
yeah."
like eventually. So
Yeah, and I think you develop them along, like with sport. Like I always tell people, like being part of sport is part of your leadership journey as well. Especially if you're part of a team, you need to play with each other. You need to socialize with each other. You need to understand each other's psyche. You need to know that if you put the ball there, they're going to be there. That type of stuff. So it is part of your leadership journey.
right. And what were your biggest early challenges building this clinic to where it is now?
Oh, in a rural area, staffing is,
Staffing? Yeah.
clinical staff was always the biggest. We could go out and promote everything and things like that, but if we didn't have the staff, then it would always fall back onto us, the owners, which is fine to start with. But when you wanted to start to grow and
Mm,
scale the business, you needed some, and not just any clinical staff that fit into your culture, into your ethos, into your vision, into your why. And sometimes that's hard, and we made some big mistakes along the way as well. Just getting anyone that we could actually think of, and then we start to really hone in and go, it's not just about the clinical skills; it's about the personality and whether they fit into the culture of our clinic and our vision of the clinic. How we treat, we're very manual focused, and that's
nice.
what made us a big point of difference compared to some of our competitors within the area as well. That was always big for us, that we had to be something different to our competitors, and it worked all the time.
So would you say your secret there is sort of that manual therapy angle to the
Manual,
community?
yeah, definitely manual therapy, and
Yeah.
the sports involvement, and then
Right.
you talk about like trying to different things. Got into occupational health and things like that, and just really expanded that because we've got such a huge industrial area around here and farming and things. So that occupational health was a market that was untapped. So again, we had to find the clinical staff then to do it.
Great. And what's one key metric that you measure in your business when you had it that you found most important?
Yeah, look, I think being on a few boards now, there's not one key metric that
Yep.
you look at. There's a scope of different metrics, but if there's one I had to really hone in, it's your profit and loss. Like if you don't make a profit, then you're not going to survive. You're going to struggle. You're not meeting your legal obligations as well. I always every week I would get the numbers of our profit and loss, and I knew exactly how much money we had to meet every week to actually meet our minimum standards of our expenditure and things like that, our wages, our rent and things. And that was always our target every week, is to get to that point. Anything over that, again, that was always good, because some weeks you're going to have like some negative weeks as well. But profit and loss every week is a key metric that I always looked at.
Yeah. And so your time as the chair of the Business Association, what lessons did you learn there about just our industry and what we can do better?
It blew my mind
Blew
away.
your
And
mind?
I think, I kind of fell into the role
Yep.
being on just the national committee to start with. And then it just opened my eyes, just like physiotherapy did when I hurt my knee. I opened my eyes and said, oh my God, there is such a wide spectrum here. And I think I became part of the business group because I thought the physiotherapy or the APA and the profession was going down the wrong track. And I'm a person that will say, you can either do something about it or shut up. So, I thought, okay, if I wanted to change the direction, if I wanted to change the profession, where we were going, then I need to stand up and be a leader within that. So, and that's what I did. And what it really did is open my eyes about the politics, about business sense, about advocacy, about, governance structures, and really how some things really challenge you and it will really affect the outcome. So, that was probably one of the biggest things. And I learned so much from a business sense as well from my days as the chair, but also on the national committee of that business group, from a whole spectrum of not just looking at the profit and loss, but also how to attract staff, how to attract patients, how to interact with all the different medical people that you come in touch with as well. And I think that really gave me the overall view of a good business person.
Awesome. And then you ended up being the ex-president of the APA. Did that change your perspective again, or was it the same
No,
consolidated?
certainly did. It gave me, it was really interesting. Every meeting I'd go into, say with a minister or anything, they would say, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And I said, I don't think that's going to work. And they said, no, we've done the modeling. It's going to work. And I said, oh, that's funny. I said, I've just seen Mrs. Smith. And if you would have done that, Mrs. Smith would have had to do this and do that and that. And then she would have had to pay 3 times as much, and it won't get to the outcome that you want. And they'd look at their advisor and go, oh, okay, we'll take that under advisement and get back to you. So I think my still clinical skills would actually assist in meeting my presidential duties as well.
Interesting.
And a lot of the advisors and ministers would often say, oh, it's interesting having your view, because we look at it from a high level, and we're not having a look also at as how it affects the patient journey along the way as well. And I think that really drove some of our policy development within the APA as well, is having that overarching view in primary healthcare, but also in my previous role at the hospital, always in aged care, in a rural area, you're overarching everything. That gave me a significant view across the whole portfolios of many ministers.
Great. Last question for you. So if you look back to your earlier self, what would you do differently as a physio, given your long hustle history? And maybe finally share an unpopular or something you haven't seen on social media advice about running a successful allied health clinic.
Yeah, well, that's a deep question. I think looking back at an old self, I'd always say, don't give up, and also keep your eyes above the horizon. I think, they're probably the two things you can't, as physiotherapists, but also practice owners, you're always just in the day-to-day running of the business or day-to-day treating patients, but you need to have your eyes above the horizon, because if you don't, things are going to come and fall in on you. And I think that's what happens with a lot of business owners, is that they really don't look above and seeing what direction their business is going. And then when they do go down some rabbit holes, then you need to adjust and change, and sometimes that's hard. And advice for social media, is that was the question?
Yeah, that's something that you haven't seen before from all
Yeah,
the noise and cut
yeah,
through all that noise, what would you say it would be? And it might not be comfortable for people to hear.
yeah. I think as physiotherapists, you need to get out of your comfort zone. I think our scope is huge at the moment, and it's expanding because our knowledge is quite wide. And I think from a business point of view, you need to set up your networks and your mentors. And it's not just one mentor. Like I see a lot of people on social media just having one mentor or something like that. You can't. You've got to have. Like I think I had about 7 or 8 different mentors, and I'd tap into their different skill sets, just like I have different skill sets. So if there's one thing, is don't just look at one channel on social media. Don't follow one person
Yeah.
on that's a business coach or anything like that.
Yep.
Follow multiple, because you need to actually use their skill sets at different avenues through your whole career. It might be setting up something. There's a good person doing that, to advertising, to engagement, to advocacy, to strategic directions, to all those types of different aspects of business development. So if there's one thing I'd say is follow multiple people on social media, and don't just take the word of one.
I love that advice. I think I've noticed just more recently things are shifting from
Yeah,
the Facebook group echo chamber. You know about that, I'm sure.
yeah, yes, yeah,
It's moving stronger actually on LinkedIn, which has become more professional,
yeah.
which is what I'm seeing more recently, which is fantastic.
That's what LinkedIn was always set up to do. It was always
Yeah,
that business,
yeah.
corporate and professional thing. And I think it's starting to catch up to what it was developed for.
Think so. I think
Yeah,
so. Well, I mean, I think there's, as you said, like there's different perspectives on both, but I think you need to be careful getting stuck in sort of one echo chamber.
yeah,
And there's people who don't engage in those groups in there.
yeah. And
So,
also, I also think that every age group of your
yep,
patient group touches different points of social media as well. So if you're only on one site, then you're not actually. It's not just about your business sense, but it's also connection with your market as well.
absolutely, absolutely.
So the early say my generation and above, probably more that Facebooky,
Yeah,
that type of younger ones,
yeah,
Instagram. Now the professionals more into LinkedIn, and then there's Snapchat, and so
yeah,
many
yeah.
different other avenues now. So you've got to go across multiple channels now.
Absolutely. And video is another big one that's more
Yeah.
recent too.
Yeah,
Well,
and
not in
and
my
then
time.
and then AI now. Like I
Yeah,
just think that that's going to be a game changer. This is where the government needs to really start looking at developing some really good standards, but also to ensure that every health practitioner can access like My Health Record easily, remotely, at real time, not like in 2 weeks time and things like that. When a document's uploaded, everything should be real time, so that's just like me talking to you now. If
yeah,
it's your medical record that you've been to the hospital only an hour ago in A&E, that's where the communication between us all should be real time, so that hopefully you don't need all these different urgent care clinics that are popping up, that physiotherapists or any allied health professional could actually do some of that role. And I think we have the skill set to do it. It's just the government needs to have the faith in us to actually go and do it now.
I think that's happened yet, by the way.
That's right.
Anyway, another conversation.
That's it,
All
definitely.
right. All right. Thanks. Lovely to have you, Scott. Thanks for your
Thanks
time.
very much, Barry.
It's been a very wide-ranging interview, which is awesome. So I'm going to snip that up and share it out. Thanks.
No worries. Thank you very much.
No worries.